Hey teachers, Rachel Parla here from the Classroom Nook, and today we're going to talk about what to do during your writing conferences with your students. Now to begin, I like to keep track of a conference schedule so I can see exactly who I'm meeting with on each day of the week. And I take it week by week into chunks, and I just list out 3 to 5 students who I'm going to be meeting with each day. And if your writer's workshop is about the standard amount of 45 minutes of work time, you should be able to meet with 3 to 5 students each day, with each conference being about 5 to 8 minutes, give or take, depending on the needs of the student. I also like to keep track of who I've met with on an overview. So I write the students' names here and then I date it every time I've met with the student. It's really easy to see who maybe I haven't met with in a while, so I can make sure that they get on the schedule coming up. I also keep track of individual conferences with each student. I write myself notes after I've met with them so that I remember what maybe they're working on or what their writing goals are. And you just write the student's name, the date, and then any notes for yourself. This is not a sheet that really students are going to be able to see. It's just for your own purposes and to guide your instruction. The first step for getting ready for your conference is to prepare, and you can do that by going over your notes from a previous conference so that you walk into that conference with kind of a plan of action of what you want to cover, what you want to review, what you want to see how they've done since your last conference. Students also have their own conferencing sheet. This is going to look similar as far as the content, but you're going to write it in kid-friendly language compared to maybe what you've written on your own conference notes. You're just going to date it, write any notes of things that you've talked about in your conference, and then give them a plan of action of what they're going to work on by the next time that they see you, and then you're going to give them a date for that conference with a little accountability to let them know that you are going to be coming back to them and that you're going to be asking to see the things that you've been working on together during your conferences. The first thing I like to do when I meet with my students is to first ask them what they're writing about. Let them start the conversation. Let them tell you what their writing piece is about. Gives you a little insight into how they feel about writing, how they feel about what they're currently working on, and it just lets them kind of lead the way into your conference and gives them a little confidence boost. So you can go over the notes of things that you've talked about last time, talk about their writing, and then you can ask any follow-up questions that maybe you have after talking with them in the first minute or two of their conference. The next thing I do is review anything that we talked about from the last conference. I check in with them to see if they've completed any of those tasks that I may have given them from a previous conference, and check in with their writing and to see if they've made any improvements. The main thing that drives our conversation during writing conferences is our discussion about their writing goals. Now, I do a good deal of instruction on how to choose writing goals based on what their needs are in their writing. We do a whole lesson on this at the beginning of the school year when we're launching our writer's workshop. But essentially, there are several different writing goals that students can choose from. There are writing presentation goals. These are goals that help them focus on improving the way that their writing actually looks so that it's easier for other people to read their writing. Things like making more space between words, making sure that their letters are clear, erasing correctly and completely, and taking the time to include detailed illustrations. So these are writing presentation goals. There's also writing convention goals. These are goals just that are simply focusing on making sure that they have correct punctuation and grammar. Things like capital letters, quotation marks, indenting a paragraph, capitalizing proper nouns, and so on. There's also spelling and vocabulary goals that help students focus on using varied and interesting and correctly spelled words in their writing. There's writing structure goals, and these are goals that help students focus on the actual organization of the content, making sure they have a beginning, a middle, and end, adding details, adding dialogue, things like that. And there's writing behavioral goals. And these are goals that help students focus on how their behavior and their acting is during writer's workshop, making sure that they begin right away, that they write for longer and they're not getting done too early, that they're staying focused, and that their writing materials are organized. And with each goal, I also have a section on their chart that I provide for them that helps them to know when maybe that is a good goal for them to choose. So for example, if their writing goal is I will begin writing right away, Maybe they need to choose that goal because they often waste too much time at the beginning of writer's workshop and they need several reminders to get started. So this column right here helps the students to know when maybe it's an appropriate goal for them. So our writing conferences will focus mainly on how they are doing in reaching their goal. And I'm going to be looking for evidence in their writing that shows that they're working towards that goal. And I'm also going to spend some time during our conference modeling how to apply that goal, especially if they're not quite getting it yet. So I spend some time in their writing. I'm showing them examples of where they could apply that goal. I'm doing maybe 1 or 2 examples for them. And finally, at the end of my conference, I'm going to give them a call to action, and I'm going to write down on their conferencing sheet what I'd like them to work on before we meet again in our next conference. So there you have it, what to include in your writing conferences with your students.